Welcome back. In the last video you'll have seen me applying the blue masking fluid with my ruling pen, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some watercolour paints on top. So you could use inks equally as well, but I kind of tend to quite like using watercolours out of this grubby palette. You'll have seen me there sort of sneak in quickly with a salt grinder, and I just put some salt on top of my painting, which seems a bit strange. I'm not going to eat it, I'm not seasoning it, but what it actually does, the salt, is it pushes away the liquid within the paint, so you end up with all these kind of little star emblems appearing, so you can just about see them in the top right hand corner, and they just are really good if, for example, you want to do maybe a starry sky or some plant forms that kind of have star-like features on them, so alliums or dandelions or anything like that. I'm getting a little bit impatient here, which is why I keep coming in with a tissue and just trying to dampen some of those bits that have kind of taken up quite a lot of the paint and are still quite wet. So what you should do is wait until your masking fluid and your paint is completely and utterly dry. So if it's watercolours, leave it for an hour or so, go and have a cup of tea, have your dinner, do something else. But I got a little bit impatient, so I started to take the masking fluid off when it was still a little bit wet, much to my detriment, just trying to dry it a little bit as I kind of went along. And you can see those little star patterns from the salt kind of starting to form within the paint, and create a sort of interesting effect. And now we're quite literally watching paint dry, until in a moment I'm going to pop back in like a ninja, a paint ninja, and wipe off the masking fluid. A little bit more of a dry. It says to take off masking fluid with an eraser, but my erasers are always a little bit grubby and they tend to leave sort of marks within the paint, so I just tend to use a sort of clean finger, and you just basically rub it off. It's like if you've ever had PVA glue on your hand, it's deeply satisfying. Some bits on here you'll get a little bit and you'll pick at it and a whole great big shape comes off. So I did go round a little bit on some of the more stubborn bits with a rubber, and also to rub off some of the pencil work. I wasn't completely happy with the kind of definition. I was doing it a bit quick on camera and things, so probably spent a little bit more time on that initial drawing stage if I was doing it for real. So I went back round and added some shadows in with a pencil. It's always worth remembering that if you do something and you're not completely happy with it, just keep applying, keep doing things until you are happy with it. It's the worst that can happen is that it gets worse. But if you're not happy with it anyway, you might as well give it a try and keep going. So I went in with a permanent fine liner. I think it was a 0.1, so really quite thin. And I just sort of emphasised as well some of those lovely sort of salt bits, those salty stars. Not a thing, a salty star, but you know what I mean. Those salty stars, and just went round and drew round some of those as well, just to give it a little bit more definition that I think it kind of lacked. You could also go around it with a different colour of paint, and then the bits that are white would shine through in that colour, so you can keep adding layers of paint on as well. I think the definition and things is better because of the ruling pen than it would be with a brush. And another little tip is put a mount on, because those raw edges were great, and when you put a mount on you can see what's right and what's wrong a little bit better. You might go back in and add some finishing touches.